Hi, everyone. It's me from Be Heard, Empower Yourself. And we are going to hear about some things, some interesting things. One of those things, the difficulty of growing up in Macedonia. And one of the good things that came out of that, the success story of Anna Ristovska. I didn't ask how to pronounce your name, Anna. How do you pronounce your
It's
name?
good.
Well, you say it.
Yeah, I'm Anna Ristovska,
I was
or
close.
Anastasia, whatever it's easier.
I was close on that last name. I was worried. So, okay, I did pretty good. So, in Macedonia, if I'm correct, it is one of those countries where women are educated but underrepresented in leadership, like to carve out space in industries like accounting and technology. Am I correct there?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right. So, your work bridges continents and currencies and everything else. But before we get into that, um, I want to ask you some things that I don't think you usually get asked, or if you do get asked, they're not there. I couldn't access them. And one of those things is because we are open to getting to know you, and are you open to getting to know us better? I
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Because I wrote my memoir and I didn't leave much out. It was called Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons. And a couple of people are mad at me, but I didn't say anything that wasn't true. And I didn't say anything bad about someone unless they were bad.
Yeah,
So
fair.
yeah, I think so. So before we dive into the systems and spreadsheets and all that, I just want to pause and ask about the person behind that precision, which is you. Tell us, what was it like growing up in Macedonia?
Oh, Macedonia is a small but beautiful country. I don't know if everybody is familiar where geographically is located, but Macedonia is in the southeastern Europe and it's close to Greece. So I believe that people are more familiar where Greece is located. So we are north of Greece, and as I said, it's a small but beautiful country. And when I was growing up, it was a period when two systems were changing. I'm born in 1985, and I was growing up in the early 90s, 2000, when a lot of things on the global stage and local stage were changing. So it definitely had an effect on my growing up, education, and so on.
Yeah,
But to be honest with you, I had a really great childhood
good.
because I was growing free. I was growing in the period when people were playing on the streets, when we didn't have phones, we didn't have computers at that time.
Mhm.
So we were basically communicating between
Yes.
us. And early in that period, I really learned how important it is to build a communication, to be good at and that was my early time of the childhood. Also, I had the opportunity to eat very healthy food at that point because
Mediterranean
we were
life.
not allowed to eat processed foods
Yeah.
like nowadays children. They're
Mhm.
eating a lot of things that are
Oh,
with a lot of calories, which are not healthy at all.
no.
So I was lucky to grow into a physically and emotionally stable person,
Mhm.
which I'm very proud of that because that was basically the root how I was growing up.
Yeah.
Later on, when I was starting my education, again, I was lucky to grow in a very educated family because
Mhm.
my mother was a judge and my father a doctor. So I come from a very good background when it comes to the
Yes.
education. So the
Mhm.
education was for us in our family number one priority. So I recall at the early days when I was going to the university, my mother told me, you can do whatever you want in your life. We're here to support you, but make sure you have a good education. And
Yes.
that was really good advice because that made me a person that I am. And not only education, I learned how to be disciplined, how to be hardworking, how to care about the things I'm doing, and everything that shaped me as a profile in the later on when I was working as a finance manager in many corporations. So that discipline, that care for the things I'm doing, really made me who I am and helped me not only back then but now as an owner of two companies.
You are a very lucky woman, because I envy your childhood, because I didn't have that. I'm about 40 years older than you. So I grew up in the 60s, and my first book was called Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons. So wolves were my parents, because my parents were brought up believing that children should be worker bees for the family. So they should work and they should stay home as long as possible and bring money into the house. So when I brought up college, it was like, no, no. And I couldn't understand that. It was because I was very smart and I talked about being a teacher all my childhood. That's all I wanted to be. And I said, well, I'll put myself through college. I'll work. But no, no, you'll just get married. It's a waste.
Yeah.
So I ended up, the only way I could leave that house, because I was offered many opportunities in life from jobs wanting to promote me, but I would have to leave and go like to California or somewhere else. And they just stopped me. And I was, how could I put it? I was naive. I was vulnerable. I'm talking about an 18, 19-year-old girl. To stand up to your parents is not easy, you know. And I mean, I know people who ran away, but that wasn't who I was. So I tell you all that because I wish I had that opportunity. However, the book is also about into later life how I did put myself through college when I had two little girls and no child support and no money. And I went to college. So when you, right? Determination.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And that's amazing. And to be honest, standing up in front of your parents, it's difficult.
Very difficult.
So no matter what year or what era we're living, we're still having that connection, that respect, that maybe fear that we're going to hurt them if we tell our opinion, what we want, and so on. So that's for sure a courage that needs to be built on. And I totally understand that we are living in a totally different ages, let's say. But what you did, it's something that should be applauded because being someone
Yeah.
and making sure that you get something with so many obstacles,
Oh, yeah.
it's really a huge success. So
Thank you.
absolutely.
And the thing of it was, of course, when they shut all the doors, I did exactly what they said I'd do. I had to get married because that was the only way to get out of there. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, I did not marry a good man. And that's okay. That's part of the book too. And the men that I met in that early part of my life, they were the demons. And a lot of things, 60s and 70s, there was a lot going on. And women were, um, I don't want to say looked down at on, but they were not thought to be as good as men. and we were fighting in America, the women in the 60s and 70s for our rights. And I was part of that. So let me ask you, in Macedonia, has there ever been any gender-based discrimination with women that you can think of?
Uh, to be honest, officially not, because in the period when I was growing up and nowadays, it's some sort of gender equality, so everybody's proclaiming that. But
Mhm.
behind the scenes, even in this 21st century, we're facing with problems with gender discrimination. And personally, I didn't have that situation, but I'm speaking to many women here who had that experience either at work, at home, in their community, society. They're getting less paid jobs compared with the male colleagues simply for the same job position, simply
Mhm.
because they're a female.
And
So
that's,
this is a
yeah,
problem that we still need to work on, and it's scary and sad in the same time because with all the other things like technology evolving so fast, I don't know, political systems evolving so fast, we're still in a position, in a situation where we're talking about gender inequalities, gender
yes,
differences.
yes,
But yeah, we're here
yeah.
and we need to recognize that publicly and
Hmm.
fight against that with
Yeah,
all our resources in power because there is no reason for that.
exactly. And in America, we are going through a big upheaval. And what women here are seeing is a tendency that we are going backwards.
Mhm.
Because, when I was fighting for equal rights and everything in the 60s and 70s, that famous bill got passed, Roe versus Wade, where a woman had the right, if she wanted to have an abortion. Now, I would never want to have an abortion, but I think a woman should have the right to choose. And we passed that. It was law. It's been law for like 40 some years, and they took it back. They canceled it. It's no longer there. So, as a woman in America, it's kind of scary to think here was a right we fought for like 40 some years ago, and the men, because I don't think a woman would vote to take that back, uh, canceled it out. And they're canceling out a lot of things that were fought for, including things that were for Black people and for women and for gays. So we're in an upheaval right now. I think the rest of the world is kind of watching us a little bit, what's going on.
Yes, absolutely. And here I can agree with you because America in general was something that was considered as a democracy, as a liberal country, where rights are above everything and people can do whatever they want until it's legal, for sure.
Yeah, right.
But nowadays, yes, we are seeing from this part of the world many changes that surprises us,
Yes.
like all those rights that you're talking about, or laws that are being canceled for something that is absurd, especially now in 21st century when let's say women can have children without having a husband or I don't know, a partner.
Right.
They can decide to become a mother even though they're not married, and that's completely fine because it's their own choice, their own right to do that. But seeing those things now in the States, in
Sure.
America,
Yeah.
it's surprising, and yes, we're watching you to see what will going on and whether the things will change, whether this is some temporary
Yeah.
in
Little tantrum.
situation.
It's a
I don't
tantrum
know.
I'm helping. Yeah, it's kind of scary because, you know, uh, I'm up close in front, I'm involved in it, and there's different generations being affected, including future generations. And let's just hope for the best. The really scary part, too, is the right to free speech was one of the first things. And, people that came to America like centuries ago came for freedom because they didn't want to live under a king, and they came for freedom of religion and to be able to say what they wanted to say and live the way they wanted to. And now we're being told no. And I'm sure everybody in the world knows this, that a very famous comedian lost his job for speaking up because he would
Yeah.
talk against the president. And that was Colbert, one of my favorite talk shows. And they canceled him. And absolutely, it was the government that had their hand in it. And we won't go into it, but I know why and what happened and everything. So that is scary. That, and then he was, let's say, on the left. And then we had this recent person that was on the right that got shot while speaking in public and killed.
Yeah.
So it's
Charlie
both.
Kirk.
Yeah,
It's crazy to
it
be
is
honest. Yeah.
crazy. Um, we had almost every single day we're having mass shootings in churches and schools. And like for me, that's like really blowing my mind. Really. Um, so there's something in America right now. There's a cancer in America right now. And I'm hoping that we cut it out soon, that they find where it is and they cut it out because this is not the country that I started off with. I mean, I had my own individual struggles. And, I've had, as far as gender based, oh my heavens, I ran the gamut from being overlooked for jobs, not being allowed to go to college, attempted rape, but I was not raped, thank God, but it was still pretty traumatic. So I went through a lot of things, but then I thought, oh, things are pretty good now for women, you know, and I don't want to see us go backwards. I don't want to. So we talked about that. That was very interesting. I enjoyed your viewpoint. So let's talk about the difference. Well, business, you're in business. And what inspired you to transition from corporate to launching your own ventures? You were corporate accounting, I believe.
Yes.
That.
Yes.
So what happened? What inspired you to change?
Yes. So I was working for more than 10 years in the corporate America. Let's say, even though I was not in the US, I was working as a finance manager for US companies who were internationally spread. And after that, I've decided to start my own business. And what was the trigger initially? The
Yes.
trigger was that I was talking to too many people at that point, and I've realized that there is lack of people who are qualified, and there is a lack on the market with qualified accountants who can help businesses to grow. That was one thing. And second thing, which was more important for me, to be honest, is that I saw the opportunity to share my knowledge to businesses, to small businesses who can make an impact into the community.
Mm,
Because I believe that small businesses are the backbone of each society. They're feeding families. They're basically feeding maybe 60, 70% of the American economy.
mhm,
So I thought that small business owners, especially family companies, deserve to have a financial knowledge, financial help to thrive and to make not only better business, but better lives for themselves, for their children, for their family that they're taking care of.
yes.
And how important is that? To be honest, when I was looking back into and reflecting on my own, let's say, I remembered of one story in my early childhood when I was growing up with a friend whose mom was an entrepreneur at that point. She was starting her business and trying to do that. But she was a person who was not taking care a lot of about the finances, money. She was more like, I want to do this for my own satisfaction. But that, let's say, financial ununderstanding, lack of knowledge in finances, led her to basically bankrupt and
Mm,
not be able to pay my friend's tuition when we came to the college.
yeah,
And that was something that I really related with, and I thought, okay, that this is so important because business owners, small business owners, are
mm,
not taking care about themselves only. They're taking care about their children, their families. So if they don't have a proper support, proper someone who will lead them through that process, they can easily come to a situation when they will don't have money. So that was some sort of inspiration. And after that, as my business grow, my biggest inspiration is when I see the impact I'm doing to the businesses and the owners and their families. So
yeah,
the impact that you can do on a small business
yeah,
is immense. It's
yes,
not even closer to the impact that a corporation is doing because corporations have money, systems in place, and so on. Small businesses are something that it needs to be fueled, at least from professionals like me, to grow and to be as successful as they could be.
yeah, that is true. I owned a small business, actually, too. I was a tavern owner, a bar and restaurant at one point, and I did everything. I did the accounting, I bartended. Um, I was even cooking in a small menu, and it eventually it became too much. It just became too much, and I had to walk away from it, because well, it led into me having alcoholism because being in a bar business, you're surrounded by a very easily accessible product, which I didn't even have to worry about having money because it was right there. It was mine. And I didn't
Yeah.
pay for my drinks. Bartender give me a drink. I didn't pay. But it was too easy to self-medicate with the alcohol. And I don't think it affected my ability to run the business, but it did affect my mind, spirit, and soul, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
And that's one of the demons in the title, Raised by
Yeah.
Demons, Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons. That was one of the demons. And uh, amazingly, you hear about people having interventions with somebody that's drinking. I did my own intervention. I said, I need to go somewhere. I didn't know. I didn't know what a rehab was or anything. This was in 1991. I know people went away places for a while and they came back, but then they'd start drinking again because I owned a bar. Who am I going to see in a bar? Not people that are in recovery. I'm going to see people drinking. So I did that. And I think part of it is that I really didn't have support. I was my own accountant. I did everything, which was a character flaw. Some people have that, right? Do you see that when you try to help people and they think, oh, I can do it myself?
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? Being a business owner of a small company is a challenge itself because you are not only the accountant, you are the communicator, the marketer, the salesperson,
Yeah.
the teacher. You're everything. So it's very human that you're not able and capable to do everything with the same quality at the same time.
Right.
So, but finances, accounting, having control over your numbers is really crucial because that directly affects your growth or your disaster. Um, like every other aspect of your business. But if you have a problems with money, then you cannot continue running your business. You're not able to pay your salesperson. You're not able to talk to your client. You're not able to hire someone who will help you and take load back off your shoulders,
Right.
because you cannot do everything. And that's something I faced with in my early stage of the business. And that was one of the obstacles basically I overcome, because initially I thought, okay, I can do everything on my own. I'm capable of doing
Yeah.
everything. Let's do that.
Hmm.
But then you hit the wall. You realize that you're not capable, not because of your intellectual capacity, but you're a human that basically needs rest. You need to do your rest to be able to perform good. So that was one thing. The second thing was the fear. What will happen when I start delegating the work to someone else?
Mm.
Will that person be able to complete the work as I'm doing at this
Right.
point?
Exactly.
Until I realized that the growth in your business must be followed with empowering other people to do their part of the job.
Right.
Because one day you can get hit by a car maybe, or get sick, or I don't know, whatever, and you cannot leave your company or your family, only you being the only person taking care of the business. So
Yeah. There's
many
no
obstacles,
time.
many
Yeah.
challenges.
No time for self-care, which is a word that's used a lot now. And, baby boomers, which I am, were a big part of the population because that's why they're called baby boomers. After World War II, the soldiers went home, and what's the first thing they did? They went to be with their wives. So we had a lot of babies born in the 40s. And I bring that up because uh, we've had that attitude that we could do anything, like my generation. We could do anything and we didn't need anybody. And self-care, we never thought about self-care. We thought about helping others. We were a big generation for helping others, which the Peace Corps and all the things that my country and my age group was doing. So now what happens? Now we're seniors. And in most cases, in marriages, seniors or baby boomers, one of the spouses is very likely to get a disease that's
Yeah.
debilitating, and
Yeah.
the other spouse becomes the caretaker. And
Yeah.
in my case, it was my husband. He has Parkinson's and he's in stage 4. And I was the caretaker. And I was just wearing myself out. This is the whole reason I have a podcast. So 2020 happened, and I have an autoimmune disease and a few other health conditions, and he has Parkinson's. So what could we do? They didn't know in the early times of 2020 in the pandemic how you would catch COVID. Do you remember? They weren't
Yes.
they weren't
Yes.
sure if you touch something or what was going to cause it. So we opted to stay home for 9 months.
Yeah.
Not good for me. Because at this stage, my husband was talking less and less, and I had no company or community that I was interacting with. And I do have chronic depression and panic disorder. And I went into a depression. And I'm telling you this because I'm I don't know what blessing, where it came from, but for some reason, I'm very self aware. Just with that, like the alcoholism, nobody did an intervention. I did my own, and I knew I was not me. Same thing with this. I called a doctor. I said, I think I'm depressed because I'm being mean to my husband. That's my main symptom. And I got a psychiatrist. I got the right medication. I did counseling on Zoom, which I'm still doing. I love it. I look forward every 2 weeks to talking to this person because I can tell her anything. So I think the self care part of it aligns with what you're talking about too. They're not taking care of themselves because everything is going, all their energy and everything is going into that business. And
Yeah.
also, a thing I related to is nobody can do it the way I do it. That
Yeah.
was a big thing. And I, um, funny story, I had a bartender and he would come on duty and he would never fill the salt shakers. And, I just made steaks and hamburgers, so it's small. So I'd say, Cuz, fill the salt shakers. I'd be very angry that he would not fill those salt shakers. And he'd sign and he'd fill them. I don't know. Maybe he thought it was beneath him. I don't know. So now I go to treatment, to a rehab. And when you go there, everybody gets a job. You have to have a job. Guess what job they gave me? Filling the salt shakers. I
Yeah.
It's hysterical. So my job every day, go to table, salt and pepper, and fill the salt shakers. So I just get tickled when I think about that life gives you these, you don't realize at the time, but they're teaching you through these little ironic things that happen. So did you write a book? Did you write
No.
a book? Okay, what do I have in my notes? Books at ease, building. What's your company's called?
Yes, my company is called Books at Ease. Is
Oh,
basically, yeah, accounting company.
oh,
Saying
I
that
see.
books should be
Accounting books. Yeah.
easy for everybody.
Oh, I'm like books at ease. That means you wrote about that
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. Your company. So, did you have any major challenges in building that company?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So basically, I own two companies at this point, and the first and biggest challenge was building the company outside of the US while serving US clients,
Oh,
because I'm miles away from my clients and I'm still running two very successful companies. So the biggest challenge when I started my company, the first one, was the self-doubt. Um, and the self-doubt in terms of, am I enough with all this knowledge, experience I have to start working on the competitive market as the US it is?
yeah.
And that self-doubt, to be honest, it was very difficult because my reasonable me was telling me there is no reason to do that. You
Yes.
have all the qualification, you have education, you have years of experience. But there was some sort of feeling in my gut, like
Oh,
telling me I'm
yes.
not comfortable doing this. Should I start with this? How the
Uh,
companies, the clients will perceive me because they're not able to see me in person. And this was
mhm.
back before the COVID,
Yeah.
when most of the companies were used to meet their accountant in
And we
person
didn't
to
have,
have
we
a,
weren't using Zoom like Zoom came out
yeah,
in COVID.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And Zoom was not
A
part
big
of that
deal.
story at that point. And
Right.
it was crazy, yeah, and difficult. But then I started to think that, okay, let's do this. Let's start with the first client and see what will happen.
Mhm.
And I really quickly realized that, and luckily for me, COVID happened, to be honest, because it was really a disaster from one standpoint. But from other point, companies learned how to work remotely, and they learned
Yes.
that, yeah, you can build a business and communicate with your accountant even though you're not seeing that person in person.
It was like,
So
yes, it changed a lot of
yeah,
people's lives.
yeah,
Mhm.
it changed the working environment, and at that point it was great for me. And to get back to my point, I really realized that clients were not choosing me because of the fancy titles. They were choosing me because I cared about them, because I explained things in a way they understood, and because I gave them peace of mind. And that shift of confidence was my biggest transformation, like leaning into what made me different instead of what I thought I was missing. So it was really a challenge. And again, second challenge now with miles away, how should I build the trust with these people? Because, okay, they see me, they want to talk with me, they want to work with me, but we have a real obstacles like document sharing, legal consideration, everything. So we needed to go over that, and we built a systems for client information protection, for sharing information, for everything. So now it's not a problem at all, because now it doesn't matter if you're in the US, if you're working remotely, or you're in Europe, for example. It's the
Yeah.
same challenges, same problems.
And that's,
So
something they say something good comes out of something bad. And, I think that the whole way the world started communicating and using Zoom, like, look at myself as an example. I have a podcast, I have a YouTube show, I wrote 4 books, all because I tapped into an ability that I didn't even know I had, a talent that I didn't know I had. Like
yeah,
I'm a talker, I'm a good talker, a
yeah, absolutely.
conversationalist. But so
Yeah.
I just fell into this so easily, and afterwards, my guests would always say, "Oh, you're very good at this." We've been on other podcasts where they just sat there. You have a conversation. You lead the conversation. You get us to say things. And I said, "See, now if COVID didn't happen, I'd be sitting here depressed." So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, and
And
what
COVID
you got,
basically, and that isolation we had,
yes,
leaned us to self-discovery, because we
yes,
were not basically aware that we are capable of doing
more,
something
yes,
until that point. So
yes. You gained self-confidence,
yes,
which you needed to gain. And, I gained validation. I needed validation. And so that's good. Some people didn't. Some people didn't see an advantage in it. They went the other way, and that's the way life is. Everybody doesn't always succeed or take the right path. So, how do you avoid burnout, Anna? Because you do it
yeah,
a lot.
that's
Yeah, yeah. We're back to
that's really,
self-care
really
again.
good question.
Yeah.
That's really good question. Yeah. Um, yeah, to be honest, I don't have the best recipe,
Mm,
but what I'm trying to do, and it's working for me
good,
at least, is to take days off for the weekend. So I'm not working for the weekends, even though I was doing that
good.
before.
Yeah.
I want to go in nature, and luckily we are surrounded with very beautiful nature here in Macedonia. I love go walking, reading books, talking with people, because that is something that fills me with energy when I see a human being. So all those
Yes.
conversations,
Yes.
uh, sharing thoughts, at
Mhm.
least sometimes even we can sit and be silent, not talking, but that presence,
Yeah.
that energy that I'm feeling from the other person really helped me
Yeah.
to avoid burnout.
Yeah.
And yeah, also because I'm running my company with my husband as well. He's a co-founder of the company,
Hmm.
and we have another challenge now, how to balance our personal life with our
Yes.
business life.
Yeah.
So we're, yes, let's say setting goals that we are not going to talk about business on weekends.
That's
We're to,
wonderful.
yeah, to relax,
Perfect.
to
That's
travel.
wonderful.
So that way I'm avoiding the
You're doing
burnout.
good. You're doing good because that's self-care and you recognized it. And that's what you have to do. And for me, with my husband, yes, I got help for the depression and everything, but the podcast is I love my podcast because I get to talk to people from all over the world, like you. I've
Yeah.
had conversations with women in Peru and Portugal and men, because in the beginning I was very female focused, and then something happened. See if we have time. Yeah, we have some time. I'll tell you what happened. I had written my first book. Okay, now it's a memoir and it's about a woman. And it's going to go from my early childhood days, not a lot too much on that, but right through adulthood and seniors. And in that book, it starts out dark, but then there's some light and there's some turns in the pathway where I take the right turns or the wrong turn. And it becomes a sort of a spiritual awakening book at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And a lot of people liked it, adult people. So now I'm at a wedding, and my grandson, who was 16 at the time, had brought a friend. And I said, well, I'll go meet your friend. And I went over and I said, hi, I'm Nick's grandmother. And this boy turned around, his face was turning red. And he said, I can't believe this is happening. He said, are you Condo Mimi? Which is my internet name on
Uh-huh.
social
Yeah.
media, is Condo Mimi. And I said, yes, I am. At this point, I thought, oh, I feel like Taylor Swift or somebody here. You're like a fan. So Nick ran over to me and he said, Nana, he's your biggest fan. He bought your book and he follows you on Instagram. Now, Anna, that to me blew my mind. A 16-year-old boy that liked my book enough to follow me on Instagram. It had an impact. I went home. I thought about it on the plane. I thought it when I got home. I was working on a workbook geared towards women surviving trauma, basically domestic abuse. I threw it away. I started over. I redrafted a book that would address trauma for men and women and LGBTQ. I can't remember all the letters.
Yeah.
But I rewrote that book, Surviving Your Demons, because of that boy. And I dedicated the book to him, which
Yeah.
for him was a big thing, that I dedicated that book to him. Now, isn't that amazing? Like
Absolutely.
I,
Absolutely. And the impact that you are doing, you don't know how great would be, and you don't know how large that impact would be. But for me, if I manage in my life journey to change someone else's life with what I'm doing, I'm
you
satisfied
and you
because that person will change some other person's life, and that's a chain.
you
So,
you
absolutely.
you are definitely helping people succeed and helping them and their loved ones. And that's your legacy. And I didn't know what my legacy was going to be other than my grandchildren. And then this happened. And now I have a legacy because I will always live on in my books. They're always there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my little joke to my husband and I, which is becoming less of a joke and more of a reality, is I said to him, well, when we get senile, I'll just get my book off the shelf and read it. At one point, we couldn't remember someone's name. And I went, oh, I think he's in my book. So I go to the book, I find the name.
Yes, yes.
I
Yes, and
so
that book will, yeah, will impact younger generations or people
yeah,
after you
yeah,
being present physically in this
yeah.
world. So,
And
yeah.
it is kind of funny, but you want to leave your mark, and whatever happens after death, none of us know. But most of us like to leave something behind, whether it's money or some kind of memory or piece of jewelry or whatever. And my grandkids are so funny because they can't believe I did all this stuff. They can't believe it. Nana at 72 years old, decided to write a book and have a podcast because I'm on 5 years now since I wrote the book. And my oldest grandson is a UPS driver, and he called me. Kids don't call; they text. So when the phone rings and it's a grandkid, say, "Oh, something's important," or they're in trouble, or they're in trouble. And he said, "Nana, I have to tell you, I was driving the truck the other day and I had a podcast station on, and I'm driving, and all of a sudden I said, is that my grandmother?"
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
I'm out there, and well, my other grandson's friend with the book. And that makes me happy because I know they're proud of me that I'm doing these things.
absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah. And you are for them an example that you can always do something if you want to do that, and you can
yeah,
do whenever you decide to do that because
yes,
there is no age or a right timing or I don't know, right circumstances.
right. And they're all flourishing and thriving and taking chances and going after what they want. So I'm very proud of them. So looking ahead, what's your vision for the future of financial empowerment as far as for yourself and for others? Do you have anything that you want us that you see?
Yeah, I want people to become more financially literate because at this point, there are many people who are not. So having control over your money and not control, but understanding how they work
Mhm.
will not change your life, but will change your attitude towards the money. Because
Yes.
now most of the people that I'm seeing, they're stressed about that because it's really tied to their existence. If you understand how money work and they can be a fuel for you, not an obstacle or stress or whatever, then you can be free. And when people are free, they're free to make choices, and then at that point they're free to have a happy life.
Yeah.
So my vision is that I'm going to educate people, the business owners, about the importance of the money and how money can transform their life. And I really hope that I don't know, when I'm not here physically present in this
Yeah.
world, maybe people will be more happy. They will feel less stressed about the money and
Yes.
material
And
things.
that's your
So
legacy. That's what you're leaving behind. Yeah,
yeah.
this was a wonderful conversation. And some people might think, oh, this is going to be so dry. She's talking to an accountant and a financial expert. It was not dry.
Yes,
It was,
accountants are not boring always.
oh, there you go. We had a very interesting conversation. So, well, good luck to you and your husband and everything. I really enjoyed our conversation. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you
And,
so much. Thank you. First of all, I'm grateful for the opportunity for being here, be a
mhm,
guest on your podcast.
yes.
I'm grateful for have the chance meeting you
Thank you.
and learning about you, your story, and your vision, what you're trying to do.
Mhm.
So, also, wish you the best of luck. Wish you to be a healthy, first of
Yes.
all, to be able to achieve everything that you have set in
Oh,
your
thank
mind.
you so
So,
much.
thank you again, and yeah, wish you the
Thank you
best
so
of
much.
luck.
And on the weekends, maybe you'll buy my first book and let's read my first book.
Absolutely, I would love to do that. If you can share with me your book
Yeah,
and title, I would be happy to
it
order
is.
that.
I am self-published on Amazon, and it is
Okay.
called, like I said, Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons. And actually, if you type in my name in Google, it's amazing. Everything pops right up because
Okay.
I taught myself all about how to put the algorithms and the right words,
Mm-hmm.
which is a whole nother story. That took me a while. But lovely talking to you again and enjoy your life and
Thank you.
keep doing the good that you're doing for other people.
Thank you. Likewise.